to Overcomers TV on your favorite app or streaming platform. It's time to overcome.
All right, Dr. Puckett, how'd you first learn about HBI Global Partners?
Well, I first learned about HBI. I was going over to northern India to work with a friend of mine in the little clinic they were running, just as an outreach ministry. And as it turned out, as I was going back for a second trip, a group from my church was coming to HBI, and one of those happened to be my 15-year-old daughter. So I kind of don't like my daughter traveling abroad without me being around, and decided, you know what, maybe it's time for me to go down there and see what they're doing. And so I made it a trip. I went to northern India for a week and flew down and met them at HBI and fell in love. Haven't been up north since.
Wow. Talk about your role, your involvement with the ministry.
So my role started many years ago at that time, and I went over, and the thing that I absolutely loved about HBI was it wasn't, what are you guys doing, and then take everybody and shove them into that box and say, here, this is what we do as a ministry. It's, they take people and look at, say, what are your strengths? What are your giftedness? What do you do? And then they, through that, help plug you into this varying area. So for me, it was in the area of medicine, and because being a surgeon. So I was not only became a board member, but I've been over 7, 8 times, and every time I go, it's something in medicine. Whether we're going out in clinics, and probably one of the greatest stories I've ever told is, may have been my second trip there. We went out to this village nobody had been to before, and we did a clinic, and in the afternoon we probably saw 75, 80 people. It was just brutal hot. I thought I was probably dehydrated and thought, man, what are we doing out here? I gave out Tylenol, ibuprofen, I mean, not much. Pastors prayed for them. They saw the Jesus film. But you know, it's like Paul said, Apollos planted, I watered, but God grew. And it was a trip later, about 2 years later, I went back to that same village, and we did our clinic in a church that was planted with the people who were saved that day that we were there. God grew that, and that was just sold me that there are so many ways to reach people for God.
Very good. How do you describe the vision or the mission of the heartbeat of HBI Global Partners?
The vision is to let every Indian have an opportunity to see and know Jesus, whether they accept it or not, but hear that clear vision through whatever means necessary, and that's what they do. They just reach out through various means to have that, and that is the main focus. Yes, we teach pastors. Yes, we teach lay people about the Bible. Yes, we work with disciples, but it is always to reach every Indian for Jesus, and to have a church for them to be able to go to all across the entire nation, and then beyond those borders out to other countries as well.
Very good. Evangelism, talk about how the Lord is using the ministry to help share the gospel.
Well, evangelism, they use it in many ways, and when we go over as short-term missions, it's very interesting. We cannot evangelize, but that's okay. In India, it's different than in the United States. They have difficulty being able to sit down with different groups of people because of the caste system or because of Hinduism and those sorts of things. So when we go over, whether you're going over into the schools or whether you're going over like I do to do some medical work or whatever it might be, my son goes as a plumber, and he can then they get plumbers to come in, construction folks, and that gives the pastors, the folks at HBI, an opportunity to actually speak to these people where they never get to and pray for them. And through that, that's where the evangelism comes. It's not what we do, it's that we're there and they're like, man, these people really came all this way just for us. It's really incredible.
Discipleship, talk about making disciples.
Well, that is sort of, I think, the key. Making disciples is the key for HBI. You can lead people to Christ, but if you stop right there, it is like the seed that fell on that ground that was kind of rough and the weeds choked it out. But if you work with disciples, that means that's getting those seeds to fall on that ground that can be fertilized and can run. And that's the part of this. It's taking them to the next step and then beyond. And a lot of those people then start going back because their families are different than here. So if the dad becomes a Christian, it really opens the door for a lot of that family to say, oh, I need to look at this Jesus guy. And that's really a cool thing. And so that really is what discipleship is about, is taking them to the next step and beyond.
Very good. Talk about education without boundaries.
You know, it's difficult in a nation as large as India to get these people to come all the way to Chennai. It's impossible. It's not like traveling in the U.S. I mean, when we have pastors come, sometimes they'll travel 2, 3, 4 days just to get there on trains and walking. And so being able to do this education without boundaries means that they don't have to come to HBI. We can reach out to them and they can be taught and learn. And sometimes people sitting in the U.S. or in the U.K. or in any other country can be in that and be teaching, and they can learn the things they need to do to be able to reach out to others and get a deeper understanding of the Bible and how to reach out to other people without having to come all the way down to HBI. And that, I think, is just totally revolutionizing the ability to reach out into those little villages. The other part with that is that they found that if you get these village folks into the big city, sometimes they don't want to go back to the village. By being able to keep them out in that village and still learn, they don't change their culture, because those villages are different cultures than the bigger cities, even in India. And that still allows them to then reach out to their fellow folks in their area.
Very good. Talk about ways people can get involved and support HBI Global Partners.
Well, you can support HBI, and I'm sure every person that is on here will start with the first one, but it is the absolute right, prayer. Prayer is the lifeblood of what we do. And so pray about the Indians, pray about their pastors, pray about the oppression that a lot of them go through, especially with the Hindus and the different governments that come in and around there. So that's number one. Number two, finances. We always need finances. Everybody does. So if you have the ability with finances. But three, I would challenge you, go. I mean, you will catch a vision by going that you will not get anywhere else. And it will be different to any other place that you've ever been, because it won't be jamming a square peg into a round hole. It is taking whoever you are and fitting you in so that you learn about HBI, and they use you in your giftedness to reach out. So go.
Very well. Why do you do what you do?
When I was a kid, I was born in the Bahamas, spent some time in the U.S., and then we actually spent some time in Brazil. And as I traveled around, I saw missions. And I saw good missionaries and some kind of wasting some time. But I really caught the vision for missions with that. And I thank my folks for that, because that really is why I do what I do. I love missions. I love the ability to reach out. And you don't have to go and be a missionary out in the field. Your missions is around you. Your missions could be short-term missions. Your missions could be a sender, giving funds to get people out. But that's why I do what I do, because I love missions, and I love HBI because they have such a great vision for that.
Awesome. Final question. Is there anything else the Lord put on your heart to share with us today about HBI Global Partners?
I love the team. I can't say enough for the team. And there's different teams. So if you look at the board, the board here is great. This board has transformed a lot in the last 10 years since I've been on the board. The team in India, depending on even the different parts, it's amazing how everybody comes together. And when we're there, I mean, they're there late at night. They're there on Saturday. They're on Sunday. They do everything. I can't believe just how great they are and how much they work to help us have a great experience. But then that leads to the Indians having a great experience in learning about Jesus.
Horizon Media Studios, producers of the television series Answering the Call, is looking for Christ-centered, Bible-believing ministries to feature ministries like Gospel Rescue Missions, homeless shelters, children's homes, Bible colleges and universities, mission sending agencies, pregnancy centers, and more. These are the doers of the word that James talks about. The Great Commission is to share the gospel and make disciples. Jesus taught us to pray the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest, and the harvest is ripe. We want to raise awareness of ministries and also mobilize the body of Christ to get involved and answer the call. Tell us about your favorite ministry. Email us at info@atctv.org.